you're not watching, you're not listening, and you're not talking to parents, because we are facing an extreme health crisis in our children today. I said to Glennis when I came in, am I going to have to stand still? Because I struggle with that. My brain works better when I move. So I'll try and stand still so that you can hear me. And I think Glennis touched on it in her opening remarks, that the world is looking a little scary, and I look at it through the eyes of children, and I think as a group of nurses, you're probably really at the forefront of understanding just how incredibly true this statement is. This statement was made by a mentor that I follow very closely. Her name is Terry Walls, and she's a doctor in America who went from a tilt recline wheelchair. She was receiving all, with MS, she was receiving all the best possible medical care and attention that money could buy, and she was only going downhill. And she turned her health around, and she's now up and riding bikes and doing extraordinary things. And she did it all through food and exercise as well. So I have a theory on how we've got to this place, and I'd like to share that with you today and see what you think about it. So industrialised agriculture took its first steps into our culture in as early as the 1920s. However, by the 1950s and 60s, it had really and truly taken hold. 1955 saw McDonald's open its first restaurant. By 1955, there was a new restaurant opening every 5.5 days. And now today, we see a new McDonald's opening 2 every single day of the year somewhere in the world. The introduction of fast, easy, cheap, convenience foods coincided very neatly with the empowerment of women to leave the home and build careers. And whilst that had many benefits, and it was certainly a fantastic thing for women, it has come at a cost. And that cost has been that leaving the kitchens, we have lost the fundamental understanding and skills that are simply required to feed and nourish not only our own bodies, but to feed and nourish and support the upcoming generations. For the first time last year, we saw life expectancy decline. It is now predicted that the life expectancy is going to be shorter for the coming generations. But it might surprise you to know that the most affected demographic in that new statistic is those born in the 50s and 60s. They are the most affected. So, by the 1970s, the United States government said, oh my goodness, people no longer know how to eat. What was once passed from grandmother to child, that basic, fundamental human right of knowing how to feed our bodies was being lost. So they pulled together this team of nutritionists, and they said, we need to give the public guidelines to teach them how to eat. So this team of nutritionists travelled the world, and they gathered all the basic, fantastic ideas to sustain human life. They handed it in to the Secretary of Agriculture. He took it off to his board, made up of the big wigs of the food industry. And what came back was something quite significantly altered. Let's have a look. So what was suggested by the nutritionists was that we eat a maximum of 2 to 3 servings of grain per day. A maximum meaning probably don't do this every day, but that's the maximum. What came back was 6 to 11 serves of grain per day. Are there any farmers in the audience? Anybody that knows people that breed stock? What do we give cattle to fatten them up before we sell them? Okay, 2 to 3 servings was changed to 4 servings of dairy. In there was also recommended that we have 4 tablespoons of cold pressed oil in addition to naturally occurring fats. That was taken out. And we saw the birth of the low fat movement. If I can give you one gift today, it's to never ever buy another low fat product, please. 5 to 9 servings of fresh fruit and vegetable. What came back was 2 to 3. This was actually upped fractionally after the Heart Association had a fit. They did rise it, they did put it up a little bit. 150 to 200 grams of protein foods was changed to 230 to 250. If I forget later, if you want to know how much protein to eat in a day, your palm, thickness and size. It's a great way to think about it for your kids as well. This is an appropriate serving of protein. Not a steak that looks like this, but also, you know, for the vegetarians and the vegans, you need to interpret that as well. Sugar should be well below 10% of caloric intake. Was changed to moderate sugar intake. I think this has been very interestingly interpreted for the last 40-something years, and perhaps it was, let's only have 5 cans of soft drink instead of 10. That'd be a moderate idea. What was also in there was obviously to limit refined carbohydrates and so on, and that was taken off. So when the nutritionists saw the food pyramid that we have been teaching to our, not only was I taught this in school, but until child was up until like a year ago, I think they've made, you know, they've turned it into the plate now, which is not significantly different, but it's a little different. So for 40-something years, we've been teaching this. When the nutritionists saw it, they said, no one needs this much bread and cereal in a day unless they are an elite athlete. Giving Americans a free starch gorging pass would unleash an unprecedented epidemic of obesity and diabetes. Do you think they were right?
Yep.
Yeah. 280 people in Australia are diagnosed with diabetes every single day. 100,000 people last year just in Australia. And this comes at a whopping $14.6 billion to our economy. And this is rising. And the picture for obesity is very similar. So in 1995, 56% of the population was overweight or obese. By 2014, we've gone up to 63.4. And I heard statistics, actually my children brought these statistics home. They were told in school that by 2020, 4 years away, 80% of all children leaving school are predicted to be overweight or obese. 80%. And I think as nurses, you probably have a fairly good idea that obesity is not the only problem. It's the ongoing problems that this leads to that, you know, this is probably at $33.87 billion to the Australian economy. I mean, that's obviously a very cold way to look at it, but it's actually unsustainable. And I am enormously passionate about this. I have got 4 children, and I want them to be growing up in a world that is not falling apart. I love this quote. Albert Einstein, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And we've certainly been given lots of options to change little things, but really the message hasn't changed, has it? In the last 40-something years, we might jig it a little bit. Sometimes it's trendy to be vegetarian or vegan or raw, or, you know, let's do Herbalife or Isogenics or lemon detox or what, you know, there is so many. But the message really doesn't change. And what we're being served in restaurants and our choices of food, it's not changing. So what I ask today is that we bring this back to self-responsibility. As women, we need to take responsibility for what we are putting in our mouths, because we need to be influencing and we need to be setting an example for the generations that are coming up. So I'm going to ask an answer for you a very burning question today, and that is to kale or not to kale. And the purpose of what I want to share with you today is to understand with little confusion or overwhelm about what is a fad and what is really healthy. And by the time you leave here today, you're going to be able to answer that question for yourselves. You won't need to outsource that to some specialist. And I don't really want to put myself out of a job. But what I'm really wanting to do is put all of us out of a job. And you know, it's not going to happen in our lifetimes. But if we can take back responsibility for our health, instead of outsourcing it to every expert out there, we are going to be so much more empowered. And what an amazing gift for our children and the generations to come, to understand that they can look after their bodies if they have a fever. They don't need to rush out to the doctor for the next prescription. They need to have fed their bodies healthy food and trust that their body is responding appropriately. So if I can tell you just a little bit about myself, I did graduate as a naturopath in 1999, and I did further study into functional nutrition 2015 through the Functional Nutrition Academy. I don't practice as a naturopath. My passion is 100% on food, and it is 100% about empowering women with nutritional intelligence, so you understand that through the power of food you can not only reverse any chronic health conditions that you may currently have, but you can protect your health and the health of your family into the future. I've had no greater teachers in my life than these 4 beautiful human beings who I very proudly baked in my own oven. They have, very definitely been my greatest teachers. So what I want to do today is talk to you mostly about the why. Of course, I want to give you information that you can take away with you so that you feel you've got something really concrete that you can do to be moving forward on your journeys to health. But I think if I stood up here and said everyone needs to eat more veggies, is there anyone that would actually be surprised by that? No one. Anyone's going to be surprised if I say you really should just drink fresh filtered water and forget most other beverages, no surprises. So that wouldn't be of great service to you, because we know really, in essence, what we need to be doing. What we need to tap into is the why we need to be doing it, and what is the effect of making the wrong choices, not only on our bodies, but on the bodies of our children. And as you will come to understand as I go on, the impact that is going to have on your grandchildren as well. So I want to talk to you today about why your genes are not your destiny. And I also want to talk to you about how each of you actually has your own army that is fighting for you every single moment of your life, simply to keep you alive, and how you can nourish that army. Epigenetics, why your DNA is not your destiny. Epigenetics literally translates to mean above genetics. So let's first consider a set of identical twins. These twins have exactly the same DNA, or the same blueprint if you like. So if we follow the believed theory that our genes are our destiny, it would stand to reason that these twins will have exactly the same physical and mental health outcomes. But we know without question that this is not the case, don't we? So what causes their genes to express differently? Let's take a quick step back. I know everybody's done biology, but just so that it's clear in everyone's head. Your DNA is simply a blueprint. I like to think, because I'm a foodie, that your DNA is like a recipe book. It can't act on its own. It doesn't make dinner. It's the recipe book. Your genes are like the recipes. They're the information, yeah? And then your proteins are the building blocks of life. They are literally what make you, you. So epigenetics, as I said, means above genetics. So what we have is these methyl groups that sit above our genes, and they act like an on or off switch. To turn them on is demethylation, and to turn them off is methylation. In 2013, a doctor by the name of Randy Jertel made the discovery that these 2 mice are genetically identical, just like the twins we looked at in the previous slide. What's happened is that the fat yellow mouse has had an epigenetic mutation. What they did was they fed that mouse, that pregnant mouse, methyl donors in the form of food, and I'll explain what they are. What happened was that her offspring were born healthy, slim, and brown. And they have now shown that this same phenomenon carries on in women. So in effect, what you eat not only affects your health if you're pregnant, it affects the health of your child. And what you are eating now is affecting your grandchild. No pressure. So if we go back to when I was talking about the 1950s, 60s, we are now looking at the third generation of people that are bearing the consequences of that change in food. So where can we get these all-important methyl donors from? It's not a magic pill. You don't need a science degree to obtain it. You simply need to eat greens. Folate, B9, green leafy vegetables, citrus, broccoli, asparagus. Please, if you want to take photos, please do, and then you can pop the various methyl donors into Google and it'll give you, all the possible sources that you can find. I've just listed a few to give you an idea. B12, choline, betaine, and methionine. But in essence, as you can see from this, real whole foods, especially dark green leafy veggies. So kale might fit into this category. So that's epigenetics, and obviously this is a very simplistic overview. But what we can do is look at it, put it into YouTube, look at all the TED Talks, and start to get a stronger understanding, because it's not just our physical health, but it's our mental health. And there are so many positive steps that we can take to ensure that, that we are, doing the best possible job we can. So this personal army that I spoke about, it's called your microbiome. Now this information is not information that I was taught when I did naturopathy, and did anybody study the microbiome when they did nursing? Nobody. The study of the microbiome was happening in Europe. I think it was, even definitely sort of 20s, 30s. So we're a bit behind. I'm going to use an analogy from a fantastic book called Gut by Julia Enders. If we imagine we're floating around in outer space and we look down on planet Earth, it is impossible to see that our beautiful Earth is in fact inhabited by billions of people and different species. But as we use our special cameras and we draw in a bit closer, we can see that there are densely populated city and urban areas. There are sparsely populated desert areas, populated rainforest regions. The planet is completely populated with human beings. And we can apply this same analogy to the human body. Why is that blank? Ooh, that was exciting. So as we look at each other here in this room, as I look at you, it is impossible to see that you are each actually your own world, absolutely densely populated with microbiome, with microbes, bacteria, protozoa, viruses, elements. Who's squirming? We have to get over our germophobia, guys, because they are the reason that we exist. And you may be surprised to know that while we have 24,000 human genes, we have between 2 and 20 million microbial genes. So for your, is it 10 trillion human cells? we have 10 times that number, 100 trillion microbial cells. Wow. So, with this mass of microbes that are doing everything from ensuring that the food we eat is digested and broken down and we can utilise it. They are protecting us from pathogens, they are helping us fight disease, they dictate our body odour, they dictate our weight, and they even protect us from cancer. So if we're going to carry around this 1.5 kilos, I think it's fair to say that you could probably think of it like another organ in your body, a vital organ that without it you could not actually live. There is a fundamental difference, however, and that is that it's not developed while we are in our mother's uterus. We get our first all-important introduction to these microbes, these life-giving microbes, via the birth canal. I think I went through the stage. I think we have, is it the 3rd highest rate of C-sections in Australia at the moment? Is this a specialty area for anybody in the room? We're certainly leading the way in elective caesareans in Australia. So here's the first piece of the puzzle. For those of you that are interested, there is a documentary that you can simply stream online called Murphy-Droomer, and they now talk about, actually for those that have you seen this? Yeah. For those that have to have a caesarean, they actually take vaginal juices, put them on a cloth and wrap the babies in them now. It's very new, and if you don't know about it, you should. Because even if we're past giving birth to our own children, we want to talk to our children about it and make sure that our grandchildren know, because this is life-saving, life-changing, generation-changing information. Breastfeeding. We've all seen breastfeeding come and go in popularity, trendy, life-saving. Oligosaccharides, the 3rd highest ingredient in breast milk, is not there to feed the baby. The baby can't digest it. It is there to feed the baby's microbiome. It passes straight through the stomach and into the colon for the microbiome to grow and flourish. So, sorry, that was C-section. That's my little bunny. I thought that was cute. Next on the list of things that is causing disruption to our microbiome is our germophobia. Now, as nurses, I think that this is a particularly difficult one for you to address. And I don't have the answers for you. Those of you that work in hospitals, I understand the need to sterilise your hands and so on. But we were designed to live in nature. There's no moving around that. We have now something called nature deficit disorder for our children. We need to have our hands in the dirt. Children need to be exposed to animals. It's just how we are designed. It is how our microbiome grows. Yeah? My son, did you hear? That wasn't a very sterilised place that he was operating in. And he milked that cow, and I can assure you that he drank that raw milk, and it wasn't homogenised, and it wasn't pasteurised, and it was full of bacteria. And he gained far more health and nutrition from that raw milk than anybody ever will from the pasteurised, homogenised milk that you buy in the supermarket now. That's a bit scandalous, isn't it? Our reliance on pharmaceuticals. Antibiotic means anti-life. There is no argument, no question that antibiotics have been one of the greatest discoveries of humankind. It has saved lives. However, the overprescription has caused untold damage to our health. There is no discriminating between good bacteria and bad bacteria. It is simply an atomic bomb and recovering from antibiotic use is significant, and it's not to be overlooked, and it is a serious undertaking, and therefore taking antibiotics needs to be a very serious undertaking. My 4 children in 18 years have had, I think it's 3 doses of antibiotics between the 4 of them. And they are doing okay. I think that the number of times, I wish I'd recorded the number of times that we've been offered antibiotics. And I just think, I don't know, we'll see how we go. We're fine, we're fine, we're fine. So probiotics obviously is pro-life, and I'll get into probiotics in a little bit. I cannot obviously go past our SAD diet, the standard Australian or standard American diet. It's pretty interchangeable, but it pretty much looks the same. Heavily processed, chemical laden, nutrient devoid, fast, cheap, easy, convenience foods. And we're going to have to move away from them. And it's not going to happen anywhere but in your own little bubbles, in your own homes is where this needs to start. And then from there, you can become an inspiration to those in your communities. And from there, we can start to spread further and affect the whole world with luck. That is my mission. So whilst my passion and my knowledge obviously lies in food, our lifestyle choices are the other thing that, of course, causing great havoc. So as I talked about our reliance on pharmaceuticals, it's not just pharmaceuticals, for goodness sake. If you can get your vitamins and your minerals from your food, which you can, you don't need supplements. If you think that you can go and eat McDonald's and take a handful of multivitamins and she's all covered, she'll be right, you're wrong. It doesn't work like that. Most of the vitamins and mineral supplements that you get are synthetically based. The body really doesn't utilise them as they will in food. There are so many nutrients in food that we haven't even begun to discover yet. And they work in synergy and they work together to make the biochemical pathways work that are supposed to work. And of course our sedentary lifestyles and stress all play a huge role. So the bromide that we use in our clothes as a fire retardant is a known neurotoxin and detrimental to your microbiome. So it's a matter of educating yourselves, working out what all these little steps are, because there is a lot of stuff in our environment that we simply can't control. But let's look at the things that we can control and then feed our bodies so that your innate intelligence is working to keep you healthy. So there's lots and lots of talk.
Next up, your intake of prebiotics. These are the non-digestible plant fibers that nourish your microbes.
How do you turn that off?
Lastly, you need to consider a wide variety of...
Alright, this was from a webinar I did and I didn't know how that they transferred that. It won't, okay. Prebiotics. We all talk about probiotics, but it's no use pumping all those beautiful probiotics and bacteria into your system if you haven't given them anything to eat. They need to be fed and nourished. So prebiotics are your non-digestible plant fibres, so soluble fibres, fruits, vegetables, onions, flaxseed. Once again, feel free to take a photo if you want to. You just pop soluble fibres into Google and you'll get an extensive list of things to have included in your diet. And resistant fibres, so sweet potato, celery, etc. Then, yes, I've got prebiotics reminders here, is that? There we go, probiotics. I'm always an absolute advocate for food first. So probiotics, we need to look at incorporating these foods into our daily routines. And once it becomes a habit, it's really not that hard. So kefirs, kombuchas, sauerkrauts, kimchis, natural yogurts, there's loads of recipes online. You can make these yourselves. A lot of them are quite expensive to buy, but really and truly it's much cheaper than buying medications, quite frankly. So I get a box of biodynamic vegetables delivered to my house every week, and there's 5 to 6 people in my house, depending on when my eldest son is home or not. and it costs me $20 a day for 5 or 6 of us. I don't think that's expensive. So when I tell people that I get this, it's like, oh, I could never afford that. Well, I can't afford to be sick. So I don't think $20 a day is expensive. I have a whole lot of containers. Everything gets prepped up. When the kids get home from school, I've got dips in the fridge. They can grab handfuls of this or that. Making school lunches, this is a breeze. Making a stir fry, this is a breeze. Putting together a slow cooked meal that goes in the pot in the morning, this is a breeze. It takes me 5 minutes. You just throw everything in. There's no exotic ingredients. I eat seasonally, whatever's on offer, organically. It's not complicated. The way that I can teach you to eat doesn't require any recipes. Beautiful, fresh, whole foods all go together. They don't clash. You can't get it wrong. Yeah. I would rather you lost a couple of little micronutrients out of there than went and grabbed a Subway roll because you didn't have time to prep a meal. This is what I'm doing, is trying to make it really easy for people, because time is an issue for most of us.
It's when you say that. Jamie Oliver did
Yeah.
a thing last year where he took a bird's eye meal that took half an hour in the oven, and he did the exact same thing with all natural ingredients, and it took less than half an hour. He had
I'm wondering if you've got something cut up for 5 days. Is it nutritious?
Yeah.
Cut up.
There's a few things that I obviously don't cut up, and I don't cut up my onions and things that have all those volatile oils in them. But I'm all about making it easy and as practical as possible. Yeah. I am wondering, is there a way of telling how much time I've got 2 minutes left? Okay. In my work, what I do is I don't have an office. I go into people's homes and I look at what their diet is. If I pick out one client, she's a psychologist and she has 2 children. They have 3 autoimmune diseases between them. They both have celiacs. The oldest son has diabetes type 1 and the daughter's just been diagnosed with Werner syndrome, and they are enormously overloaded. So I go into their home, I look at their standard diet and I rejig it so that it is full of nutritious food, and I can restock pantries, and I write shopping lists, and I write menus, and I do this on an individual basis. But what I do find is that it is pretty inaccessible for most people because it does cost a lot, because it takes a lot of time. So what I have done with the academy, the Functional Nutrition Academy that I studied through, we've written a course in conjunction. And so all the products that you see I'm selling downstairs are all through Changing Habits, which is this Functional Nutrition Academy. And this course is a 6-week course, and I'll run through it at speed. But you can take photos of the slide, have a look at it, have a think about it. I'm giving away 3 places today. So I think everybody, Glennis has organised it so everybody's in the draw. I hope everybody wants to do it. And as an added incentive, if you sign up today, instead of $297, I'll do it for $197. So it is 6 weeks, it is online. So you get all the information to digest and to go through as you need to, but you will also have access to me for those 6 weeks. I can, if you let me know, I can have individual conversations. Obviously that would be extra, but what I'd like to do is set up a Facebook group, a private Facebook group, so that we can share recipes, inspiration, what are you struggling with, and I'll be in there every day to add my 5 cents, but I would really like it to become a community thing where we're supporting each other.